Hello and welcome back to A Boring Revolution, your number one news source for everything in regards to the Boring Company. Yes, it is that time. I'm a little bit late on this one, but we're going to do our quarterly review. This is for Q4 of last year, although I have updated it from sort of today onwards. It is up to date. So let's have a look at projects that are currently in the works, some that have fallen by the wayside and some that potentially could happen but maybe won't happen. I've been keeping this spreadsheet up to date now for, I reckon, over 3 years of work have gone into this. I've updated it fairly regularly. I will post the link below the video and hopefully you can have a look at that and kind of ascertain what is going on with particular projects. I've added a couple of projects. It might not make sense to you, but I will explain to you why I've done it in that particular manner, because it is essentially one project, but I've broken it down into 3 projects. Okay, so let's start off. Again, we've got projects on here that have already been completed. I don't need to really go into too much detail about the Las Vegas Convention Center loop. Other that it is going to be updated constantly. You know, the top speed, the average speed will change. The number of vehicles in the system may go down, but the throughput may go up. I'm fairly confident with what I've got here in terms of that particular project. I think the throughput will increase by another 15, maybe 20% at some point. Whether that's next year or the year after, we'll have to find out. Yeah, that's that project went very, very well, so we're happy about that. What other projects have we got on here? We've got the San Jose Airport loop. Not really much has happened with that one, to be really blunt with you all. It's a good project. It makes a lot of sense. There are some rumours that they will start, properly tendering for that project in the future. But with everything that's happened with this pandemic and things like that, a lot of authorities are cutting down on their budgets and things like that. Again, the Boring Company should be funding these projects. They should say, look, until we actually start operating the project, we are going to pay for everything as long as you agree to pay a set amount. And that's how the contract should be worded and phrased. But I like the San Jose Airport loop. I know I say that every time we do a review, but it is a good project. It has a great use case, linking in the airport and the train station, which is quite a busy train station for American standards. Obviously in Europe it would be considered quite a medium-sized railway station, but hey, it is good. Hawthorne test tunnel. Oh dear, I've done that. Let's move that across. Hawthorne test tunnel. I've got my key on here. That's what it is. There we go. Okay, Hawthorne test tunnel. As you know, that was the first kind of project that the Boring Company completed on the SpaceX campus there at Hawthorne. Kind of proved the kind of capabilities of current TBMs and gave them a project on which people could learn and they could get an understanding of what's important when it comes to building tunnels. It was completed for $10 million. What have we got next? Dugout loop. I like this project. A lot of criticism about this project on YouTube. I'm not really sure why. Maybe they don't like baseball. Maybe they just want people to sit on a bus for 25-30 minutes. I don't know. But a lot of these people, to be frank and honest, they're not investors. They're not engineers. And yeah, they're not the smartest knives in the drawer, as you put it. Dugout loop was scheduled to cost $53 million for 3.59 miles. I anticipate it would probably end up having costed a bit more than that, maybe $60 to $65 million. But inflation's an issue at the moment, so I anticipate all these projects will be increasing in terms of values. As far as I'm aware, it's still in planning. It's not like it's gone away, but the Boring Company is focusing on other schemes and it's kind of just working its way through kind of the initial planning stage. What details do we have for this project? Throughput 2,000 per hour. It's just a single tunnel. So you'd have like 20 vehicles going in one direction, and then those 20 vehicles would unload and then come back in the other direction. And there are some inefficiencies in that approach, but they could upgrade that to 2 tunnels. What is my probability of completion for that particular project? I've got 5.25%. In terms of the San Jose airport, I've reduced that down to 8.5%, just because the Boeing company are focusing on other projects. The Boeing company can't do 3 projects every year. They just can't do it. And there's so many stacking up now that I just don't think that this project will go ahead, both the Dugout loop and the San Jose airport loop. But yeah, it's probably not going to happen. But then again, we could be surprised. Success on other schemes could push this forward. Okay, so we have our 2 projects here. Let me just move this up so that my face isn't in the way later on. So what usually happens is I work my way down through here and then my face is in the way. So we have Resorts World Las Vegas. So this project is technically still under construction. However, they're coming to the end of the project. Didn't go too well. However, like I always say, you learn more from your mistakes than your successes. And when you stop making mistakes, you know that something is going well with your processes and the competency of your team. So we're kind of in the middle there, where we're working through issues with how machines are built, how projects are run, you know, how they manufacture components, you know, what happens when issues arise, these kinds of things. And I'm hopeful that this project is, you know, a success after it opens. If it's a success after it opens, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it also doesn't matter if you finish a project 3 or 4 weeks early and then it's a complete failure because it doesn't operate correctly. So there's a lot of things that you need to consider when you think about this project. But the Resorts World project took twice as long as it should have done, and that may well have increased the cost. Let's have a look at the cost. Cost value is $10 million. 0.48 miles, cost per mile, just under 22 million per mile. Quite a lot, but it's going to be a useful project for that casino. It gives them access to the conference centre. That's going to bring in a lot of customers because you know, they can get up in the morning at 8 o'clock, have the breakfast, and then they can get to the conference centre at, you know, 9 o'clock, 9:15, something like that. So it saves people a lot of time and money, and it's going to be useful. And remember, that particular route takes you to one of the front doors of the conference centre. If you believe people like Thunderfoot, you'd think that it's some big U-turn, but it's not. He's just not looking at the plans. He's being lazy, and he's making assumptions, which is why, you know, you shouldn't listen to people like that if they can't even read basic plans. Jesus Christ. Let's have a look and see what I think about the... So, in terms of vehicle speed, I'm not too sure on this one. It could be that the top speed is like 60 miles per hour. It could be the top speed is 80 miles per hour. I'm not too sure. But I think something like 70 miles per hour in terms of right in the middle of the route, sort of maybe let's say 3/4 of the way through the route, they could potentially get up to 70 miles per hour, something in that kind of ballpark. But the average speed, because they're going to have to accelerate and deaccelerate at various points, is going to be somewhere like 52 miles per hour, which is fine when you're only travelling, you know, half a mile, as it were. For this one, I've got the probability of completion is 100%. The same for the Encore Wind Casino. Throughput 900 per hour for both these projects. Both these projects are basically the same. It's just that they're in different locations and they connect up different parts of the Las Vegas Convention Center. Cost per mile is similar. I think the longer the project, the less it will cost, because you've got to set up and disassemble the machine. And when those two events are fairly close to each other in terms of weeks and months, that ultimately adds more cost to a project. It's better if the TBM is doing like 3 or 4 miles before it has to be disassembled. Okay, so Resorts World Encore Win Casino, their project. I believe they have started some kind of preliminary construction work for the Encore Win Casino. That's why I've put this down as an orange here. I believe they've started some, so I'm going to put it down as a start. It's not really an official start, but some work is going on. The TBM is now ready to go, as it has been moved from its reception shaft at the Resorts World Casino. What other projects have we got on our list? The Ontario Airport Loop in California. That's in the tendering process. There is just the Boring Company and one other company. I'm trying to think who they are. I think it's the company that has the small pods. I could be wrong. Correct me in the comments below. But this is a smash win, I think, for the Boring Company. I don't think they're going to lose this project. But it's just that in California, the whole process of finding someone and kind of wording the contract and agreeing with them that the kind of works that they need to complete and when they need to complete them, how much it's going to cost. Generally, when you're dealing with the government in California, it takes a long time. So this project's going to stretch out for a little bit longer. It probably won't be until next year when it actually starts. Hopefully I'm wrong, but generally I'm not. $70 million dollar project. Again, I suspect that will go up because of inflation. As the cost of everything from a construction perspective has gone up exceedingly quick, whether that's lumber or steel or aggregates for concrete, cement, labour costs. It's all going up. So ultimately, the prices on this are accurate today, but they probably won't be accurate in 6 to 9 months' time. Let's have a look at what I think this is the probability of completion for this one, 78%. As you can see, for Fremont Supply Tunnel, I've got 1.2% for probability of completion, and the CERN Particle Accelerator, 1.7%. I'll cover those projects now. Let's have a look. Fremont Supply Tunnel. So I'm fairly bullish on the Ontario Airport Loop. Hopefully that will get built. Fingers crossed. Tell me if you like that project in the comments below. Fremont Supply Tunnel is just a project that I kind of developed from another YouTuber produced a video saying, hey, why don't we manufacture the seats and then send them through some kind of tunnel to the Fremont factory. I love the idea. I thought this was great. I wanted to kind of promote the idea, so I've added it into this here. I think at some point I will remove it because I've just invented this project in my head basically, thanks to another YouTuber. It's unlikely to happen, but it just makes a lot of sense, and I think that at some point, hopefully, some factory that the Tesla operate will have some kind of tunnel access, likely the Austin Gigafactory, which is set to begin manufacturing cars later next week. Fantastic. CERN Particle Accelerator, so that's the kind of physics experiment where they are smashing particles together at very, very high speeds to kind of establish sort of physics principles regarding the Higgs boson. I think it's the Higgs boson, which they did actually find. So again, that actually was proposed by CERN, and Elon Musk said it was a great idea, and yeah, it's kind of disappeared into the wilderness, that project. So there's not really a great chance of this happening in the next 2 years, but hey, maybe something will happen in the future. The most important project for the Boring Company at the moment is the Las Vegas Loop in Nevada. So that is the big project that's going to connect casinos and the stadium and a few other places up and down the Las Vegas Strip. And it's kind of shaped in kind of a weird L shape, which is interesting how they've done it, but I can understand why they've done it like that, because it does allow access to more places in Las Vegas. With all the switchbacks, I've calculated at 29.65 miles. It might be more than that. Looking at around $500 million for that now. Again, I think that could increase another 10 to 15%. It's currently going through planning. I suspect that's going to be well over a year's worth of work. So we must have done at least 6 months now of kind of work by the Boring Company into getting this proposal over the line. So I suspect it's going to be at least a year, maybe 14-15 months before we see this approved and construction work can then commence. We've got the throughput down as 57,000 per hour. I don't think it will start at that. I think it'll be close to 30,000, and then over the years it will work its way up to 57,000. Vehicle kind of top speed, I've got 85 miles per hour. There are a lot of twists and turns and lots of stations in this one, so ultimately the speed will be fairly limited, but there are stretches where it will get up to 85 miles per hour. Average speed, I think that's quite generous, 63. It might be somewhere in the region of 58 miles per hour to 63 miles per hour. That's what would be my kind of guess. 48 stations, probability of completion 86%. I think that's fairly good. So yeah, that's a project that we're excited about. I hope you're excited about it as well. Austin Loop, Texas, again, very, very similar project. We're hopeful that this one will start. Or actually, you know, kind of get off the finish line in terms of some kind of route being agreed, but we don't really know what's going on with that one at the moment. But there has been some talks going on in the background, so hopefully we will see some plans revealed. We've just seen the Miami plans, so maybe this is the one that will come out next. Fingers crossed, guys. You know, you've got to hope. We've got to hope. All right, let's get some refreshment. Nice cup of English tea. Okay. I'll cover the probability of completion on that at some point. Fort Lauderdale Loop. So, this is another key project. I think in terms of importance, I would say this is number 3, in my opinion. In terms of, it's important that they start this and finish it and make sure it's done correctly. So we have a system, I've calculated at 2.95 miles. It might be slightly more than that, it might be slightly less than that. I will update this as we kind of go along over the years. But according to my kind of calculations, it's 2.95 miles, 4.75 kilometers. You're looking at around $67 million for that particular project. It's got 3 stations, and the stations are around a mile apart. One in particular might be, you know, 0.85 miles from another station, but then the other one might be, you know, well over a mile. So it's an interesting one. But that should enable 85 mile per hour running, 65 mile per hour average, and I think it might be higher than that. We're looking at 6,500 per hour throughput for that one, but I suspect that with bigger vehicles, as I keep banging on about the robo van, I think with a robo van that could be closer to 9,000 per hour, maybe even 10,000 per hour. Who knows? The mayor of Fort Lauderdale is well on board with this one. Very, very much on board for it. So I'm very confident that this is going to happen. So I've got the probability of completion for this one as 85%. In regards to the Austin Loop, Texas, I have that as 65%. We'll see what happens with that, but I might increase that. I suspect this one will go to 100% at some point. I don't know why I have it as 85%, because it's, you know, getting close to like achieving planning approval, and at that point then it obviously is definitely going to happen, because the Boring Company don't have financial issues with this one. They can just do it themselves. Important project, Fort Lauderdale. I'm hopeful for it. Very hopeful for it. Okay. So we've got our 2 test tunnels here. Adelanto test tunnel and Bastrop. I think that's how you pronounce it. Bastrop test tunnel. These are important kind of learning areas for the Boring Company. As far as I'm aware, the Boring Company is kind of, whoops-a-daisy, the Boeing company is moving its personnel out of Adelanto. This is what I'm hearing. Yeah, they're moving a lot of the personnel out of Adelanto. Not all the personnel, but most of them, and a lot of them are going to Bastrop. The reason they're going to Bastrop is there's going to be a lot more tunnels at Bastrop. I don't know a lot of information on that at the moment. I'm suspecting there may be as many as 6 individual tunnels, ranging from about 300 feet long to maybe 600, 700 feet long. It depends on what they're doing and how much space they've got available in that particular along that particular route. But it could go well beyond 0.25 miles. The reason I have them on here is just to kind of keep you informed about what is going on with these kind of test areas. I suspect, this is a guess by the way, I'm making assumptions, please don't take it as gospel. Adelanto will get closed down at some point in the next 12 to 18 months. The reason being is that they have a lot more land and they've got a lot more freedom in Bastrop. So that's what, and it's just easier operating out of Texas than California. No offense if you live in California, but it's not the easiest place to do business or pay taxes. What do I think the probability of completion for these is 100%. I think these start dates are accurate, but I'm not going to say them because I'm not too sure. We probably will see, I think, Proof Rock 3 operating out of Bastrop fairly soon. So under 12 months. That's my prediction. Maybe 18 months. But we could see 3, 4, maybe even 5 different iterations of Proof Rock come out of Bastrop, because this is going to be the main testing area. And the chalk in that area is perfect for tunneling. Groundwater levels are fairly consistent. You know, they're fairly kind of lowish. I'd say they're not major low, but they are kind of lowish if you compare them to the average. But yeah, so let's kind of, in fact, let's make some room. I hope you can see what's going on. It might have been that I've just been covering the numbers here. Okay, so let me rush through this before I kind of summarize. So San Antonio Loop in Texas, again, this is another project. It's been talked about. They're not really produced any plans yet, but there's talks in the background, and it's likely that something will happen fairly soon. It's difficult to say whether they could actually do this project if they are doing Miami and Fort Lauderdale and Las Vegas at the same time. Have I talked about Miami? Have I just skipped over Miami? I think I've skipped over Miami, and that's terrible because this is the second most important project. So Miami Loop, I've got it here. I've split it up into 3 projects. Now, why have I split it up? Because we know that this one is going to be built. But the 2 extensions, which are at the bottom of this list, potentially might not get built. So it is kind of difficult to say. And the routes could change. So what we're going to do is split it up into 3, and then we can follow them, and then we can kind of have some learnings about how much each section cost, and why it might be better to build longer sections of tunnel rather than building these little extensions, which could end up costing a lot more per mile. So Miami Loop, Florida, they put the cost down as like 180 million to 220 million. I mean, it's an interesting way of trying to say it, but I suppose it gives us kind of a minimum and a maximum. So I have decided, based on that, to cost it at $212 million. It's 6.18 miles from I think that's actually a bit high. It's more like 6.15, but let's say it's 6.18 because that's close enough. This is a good project. I really like this project. Vehicle speeds are going to be high because there's lots of gaps between the stations. It's well over like 900 meters between each station, which means that you can get up to high speeds. And if you're passing through the stations, hopefully you can pass through the stations at like 25 miles per hour. That's going to make this even faster. Average speed is about 68 miles per hour. Hopefully you can see the kind of theme what I've got here for average speeds. I'm going to be in that kind of ballpark usually for most projects, unless they're very, very long tunnels in excess of like 20 miles and there's minimal stations, in which case it could be a lot higher. Planning approval has been sought. What do I think about Miami now that they've produced an actual plan? And again, the mayor's on board. He's a big supporter. He even asked for this project. 6 underground stations, 72% probability of completion now. Very, very confident on that one. I think it should actually be higher than that. I think it should be maybe 82%. Anyway, okay, so I missed that one, but hey, let's go back to that one. So, what have we got left? South Padre Island Tunnel. I'm not sure what's going on with that, so it's difficult to say. It has been talked about. It's not a long tunnel. It should be fairly simple. It's more conceptual because they've not really gone in for planning permission or had discussions about building it. I think what needs to happen is they need to get approval to launch Starship from that location, and they've not got that yet, and it keeps getting delayed, and as a result they might end up having to do things differently. I either go via Florida or launch offshore. So if, and I'm pretty confident they will get approval, but hey, you never know these days with all the FUD that's around. If they do get approval, I think this might come back into reckoning, and it would make a lot of sense if they built a tunnel there. But yeah, there's a lot of people hating on SpaceX operating in that area, and it's a real shame. Okay, so I've got 2 projects here: Hard Rock Stadium in Miami and FIU Biscayne Loop. So that's Florida something University. Florida International University, I have no idea, but hey, these are 2 separate possible extensions, and there is another extension, but it's fairly short, and you know, I'm thinking they might add it onto the other one, but hey. So we've got these 2 extensions. I've added them on. These are kind of the new projects that I've added this particular quarter. Other than actually the length of the project and how many stations there are, it's very difficult to say how much this is going to cost, and whether this is actually going to tie into the existing Miami system. Some people think that I'm being a bit silly in saying that, but you know, Resorts World and the Wynn Encore Casino in Las Vegas are not connected up to the existing LVCC system, and it might be that they do the same here, in that you have to change over. You have to change vehicles, and the reason that would be they would do it that way is A, it's a lot lower cost, B, lower complexity, and C, they can kind of improve safety by not having junctions. And I think for that particular use case, I think that kind of makes sense. So in terms of vehicle speeds in this system, I've gone for 60 miles per hour and 48 average, and then for the smaller system I've gone for 47 miles per hour like top speed, and then 40 mile per hour average. Both of them have gone for 2,800 per hour. I suspect they could be a lot more than that, but it's difficult to say how they will operate. Whether there'll be actual dual bore systems as well. That's another point actually. I've just realised there's a mistake actually, but never mind. You will find out on the next quarterly review. All right, both of those have got 75% probability of completion. I'm hopeful that will go up as well over time. Okay, so that's kind of the quarterly review. We're a bit late this quarter, so sorry about that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and you learned something about what the Boring Company is doing and what projects are active and what projects are not active. there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in the Boring Company world. People will have you think that there isn't, but there is, and it's exciting times. And hopefully these projects will be just as successful as the Las Vegas Convention Center loop. I'm not going anywhere. I'm continuing to follow the company and to support the company and to kind of document their progress, and hopefully in 5 to 10 years people will look at this video and have a good laugh and chuckle at all these other projects and how much doubt there was in the world at that particular time. Okay guys, I'm going to end the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for joining me. If you like this channel, please subscribe. If you love the video, please like it. If you have some thoughts on some of these projects, please put it in comments below. And also, please consider supporting me on Patreon for just $2 a month. That would be really, really helpful. Thank you to all my wonderful Patreons who support me, and I'm forever grateful for that support. And join me on Twitter and Discord as well. Okay, guys, I'm going to call it a day. Thank you, and remember, don't be boring. I will see you on the next one. Have a good evening. Take care now, and goodbye.